based in the US, and we can definitely share a thing or two about what's been happening here. And personally, of course, to me, I think US has always been the key innovation hub. And I think there's a lot of things that are happening here, that we haven't, like as Asians, especially me, that I don't know about. So we definitely want to welcome our panelists here to come forward and then share with us about what they've been working on in the US, what's been happening here and what we can learn from them. So please welcome Kathleen from B3. So she will be our moderator today. Kathleen, hopefully you have enough coffee today, just to excite the crowd and help us to moderate the panel. Thanks for making the time. So please welcome our panelists as well. So Maria from Republic Crypto, one of our very good friends here coming and also supporting the event. We also have Dylan from Stucknet Foundation, Irina from Buildbox, and Ela from SheFi. So definitely they're going to bring in, different perspectives and insights from what they have been doing in the space. So now I would like to, pass on to Kathleen, just to take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. She's very observant. She's been looking at me, chugging coffee this morning.
Making sure that you're awake, yeah.
For sure. So you can do the panel? Yes. I mean, across the room, I feel like all the Asian developers, you guys probably have jet lag, so you guys are wide awake and shocked. Like US people are just slowly sipping coffee in the back. So it's interesting to observe these different behaviors. So we have 5 panelists today, only 30 minutes. It's gonna go really quickly. I wanna keep it kind of like conversation style. I guess everyone's gonna hang out afterwards, so if you have any questions, feel free to just catch one of us after. We probably don't have time for Q&A at the moment. Wanna show, probably I wanna do intros quickly this way around, and then we'll have 3 discussion topics. I can start first. My name is Kathleen. I am the head of ecosystems at B3. So we are an open gaming layer built on top of Base. We have roughly about 90 games that's launched currently live on the game launcher. So you can go to Basement.fun, play it. It's kind of like arcade style, very nostalgic. On top of that, we also have game chains that are built. So we have prominent titles from Parallel, Infinite Gods, also signed a new, a pretty prominent game studio in India called Super Gaming. So tapping into different regions is one of our core focuses. So yeah, if you're interested to talk about gaming or the sentiment of lack thereof, happy to discuss afterwards.
Hi everyone. Thank you for everyone for coming here today. It's quite early, especially those that are coming from Asia, because I'm so jet lag from Hong Kong. So a little about myself, I'm Maria. I head business development and go-to-market at Republic Crypto. So think of us as the crypto investment bank. We have advisory where we help with the conceptualization of digital assets. So we help design tokenomics. So think of Avalanche, for example. We've worked on Sonic SVM, Star Atlas, and a few. Myself, primarily, I work with founders on their business strategy and go-to-market. So I've helped the team in entering Japan, Vietnam, and also assisting the Philippines. Previously, I used to work at JP Morgan's blockchain team, so the first hire, and helping their go-to-market strategy and commercialization for their wholesale application as well.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Dylan from the Starknet Foundation. So just very quickly, Starknet is an L2 on top of Ethereum, a little bit different. We will be ideally settling to Ethereum and Bitcoin sometime soon. We do not use Solidity. We use Cairo as a provable programming language, and we do not use VM. We use the Cairo VM. This allows for the fastest and cheapest L2. We have a pretty large ecosystem, especially out in Asia. And we actually hit a huge milestone of 992 TPS on mainnet the other day with a fun little community event. So here to chat not about the technical side, but more of the ecosystem side.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irina Marinescu. I'm a co-founder and CEO at Buildbox. We are the ex-Bitcoin hackathons platform, but it's a much broader developer relations, developer engagement hub. And we actually just had a very large hackathon on Starknet recently and had blockbuster participation, I think, proportionally across APAC as across global representation. And yeah, here to talk about onboarding core developers, helping bring builders to Web3.
Hi guys. Hello.
I can't really sit.
Hi guys, I'm Ella. I am the chief of staff at SheFi. If you don't know what SheFi is, We onboard women and non-binary people into Web3. It was founded by Maggie Love in 2019. We have about 10,000 community members, and we just started our season 13 cohort, which is going to onboard 2,500 students into Web3. We have students from 92 different countries. We have 26 chapter leads that throw events. We're having our big summit tomorrow, so I get to see some of you guys there. Yeah, thank you guys for coming, and I'm excited to kind of touch on the experience of onboarding people across the U.S. and the world, and you know the impacts and challenges of that. Well, we have a very diverse panel today, so kicking it off, would love everyone's opinion on how do you think U.S. is positioned in the global Web3 landscape? Keeping the question very broad. Go for it.
Okay, I'll start this off. And if you can't hear me, I lost my voice. We've been having a hacker house here in Denver for the last 2 days. Not a good start to the conference. Thank you. But basically, the U.S. has historically been at the forefront of pretty much most, if not every, technical innovation. I'll flat out say my cards right here. I'm a U.S. maxi from New York. We have the largest institutional investors, deep pools of capital, and world-class cryptographers and engineers. If you look at the history of every technological breakthrough, the U.S. has had some part involved in it, and Web3 is no different. When it comes to Web3, the talent and the resources, the capital isn't the problem, regulation. Basically, you know, we have developers and organizations that are operating sort of a legal gray zone right now in the U.S. Many projects have stuck it out, even though, even with this uncertainty, but many have also left to regions that have clearer regulatory frameworks. That's a real risk. If we can't get a balanced regulatory framework, one that protects consumers without stifling innovation, there is a real risk for the brain drain to accelerate. But here's the thing. The United States has the undeniable ability to set global trends. There's a reason why we have this conversation year after year after year after year after year. And we will continue to have this conversation year after year after year. It's because the United States is the biggest market for tech, surely. And we will have this conversation continuously going forward until we figure it out here in the United States. That's not to say that the other markets in Asia and other emerging markets aren't developing their own niche, and I'm sure we'll be chatting a lot about that later today. Yeah.
I think I would like to echo on the regulatory piece as well. So at Republic, we have been lobbying with the government since 2017 about security check-ins, and we've launched our own as well. And so I would say that when it comes to regulations, a lot of times, like if we look at Korea, Japan, and other nations, they will kind of look at the US on a pedestal of like, how do we regulate crypto? And in that sense, the US has been kind of, the past 2 years, been in like the kind of gray zone in how we want to operate in. And so that has forced a lot of brain drain where everyone's been focusing more on the APAC region. If you look at Korea, for example, when it comes to the gaming and entertainment companies, they were the first to actually adopt Web3, starting with Remix. So they raised on a token price with a lot of investors, and were the first to launch blockchain games. We're seeing a lot of adoption in terms of enterprises in that way. But in the US, we're seeing this to be a little bit more on, they're a little tense in entering the space because a lot of them are public listed companies. They don't know how to manage the tokens piece. But with the more recent regulation, or like with the Trump's presidency, we're seeing more enterprises that are interested in entering this space, but it's a matter of how and what is the best way in entering. Because I think in the past couple of years, and including right now, a lot of people are focused on the meme coins, right? And so a lot of the attention and the liquidity is going in that way. I would say, even though some may say this is a bull run, it's kind of a weird one where like a lot of the attention is focused on the meme coin. And then those are actually developing, they're unable to raise, or investors are not as interested in investing into companies that are more on the longer term.
Yeah, plus one, a lot of those sentiments and observations. I'm the former Coin General Counsel, and I do spend a little bit of time paying attention as far as I can at the regulatory front. And I think You're absolutely right. It's been sort of thorn in our side. And notwithstanding that, the U.S. has led in sort of developer contribution for very many years, up until very recently, where we were eclipsed by Asia. So I think it is a thorn in our side, but I think there's a lot of good work that's being done by the likes of Republic, but a lot of industry consortia, very good lawyers thinking hard about these problems that are putting forward proposals that are concrete and tangible for the regulatory machine to implement. Hester Pierce is taking the lead, and she is one of the most forward-thinking, innovation-oriented commissioners, and so she's really driving the lead there. And I think there's a lot to look forward to, but it is still opaque.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely like to echo what Maria and Irina were saying. I think that, I come from a little bit of a different angle where DeFi is onboarding users and participants in the space, and we're constantly onboarding women core developers from Asia. One of our largest groups in our cohorts are from India. There's just a huge culture there of, women being developers, and it's very supported, and it's very it's common, and they're excited to learn more. I think, coming from a place of onboarding participants, and since joining Shiba, what I've seen is that there are a lot of pain points in the US right now. So I come from a non-Web3 background. I actually worked in Hollywood and film and did that whole thing, and I feel like that's an industry that's seen as being very cool and very exciting to work in. And there's actually tons of pain points, and people are really unhappy with the way things are going. And I feel like that's a sentiment that's been expressed in almost every industry throughout the U.S. right now, at least from the women that are joining DeFi. And I think there's a real interest in joining the Web3 space and learning about Web3 because there is so much potential in the U.S. in every industry, and people are frustrated with how things are going, and Web3 just poses so many solutions to that. So in terms of offboarding, that's kind of where the U.S. seems to be positioned around.
I'll give a brighter note about the U.S. on this end to give an example of how we've been pioneering on the blockchain side. So when I was at JP Morgan, we were one of the first banks to be pioneering the blockchain innovation. So we kind of started off as a consortium, and then eventually there was an application that worked on. It's called the JPM coin. It is not a cryptocurrency, nor is it a stable coin. It's a basket of Singaporean dollar and US dollar. It was a partnership with Singapore Mass. The reason being is that when it comes to FX PVP, typically the settlement takes a very long time. So this was probably in 2020 or 2019, we were working on this. And then it went live. And now it's being transactions in the trillions of dollars that's being settled every single day. So this was really led by the US in terms of the tech innovation to work with the US in terms of the regulations and also with Singapore in order to make this happen. So to your point, if I can move on, Dylan, US has been pioneering a lot on the technology side. And when it comes to adoption, though, I would say Asia kind of leads a lot on that terms, because in terms of emerging markets, there is a higher use case and that need for people in those regions to be leveraging actual technology.
I think that's actually a great point. I don't want to get into the enterprise side of blockchain. Blockchain. Yeah, definitely not what I want to be talking about. But I think it's a great point that you just brought up. In the US, most people are onboarded through speculation. And I came in because I was a gambling addict. I'm sure many people in the US did the same. It's speculation. It's NFTs, trading, really just saying crypto as an investment vehicle. Whereas in APAC, people are actually using it for day-to-day life. They're using it as an actual tool for remittances. And I'm not just talking about APAC, I'm talking about general emerging markets. These are for remittances, financial inclusion, even potentially making a living. It's a very, very different mindset and leads to very different types of people and developers and consumer approaches to it. And how we target that is extremely different when we think about the United States versus APAC versus other emerging markets. But I think I'm getting ahead for sure.
All these are really good sentiments. I feel like across the board we have different variations of like how bullish you are in the US, and I feel like we pretty much sit in the healthy medium where we understand that US has a lot of merits, but also Asia is leading in adoption.
I would probably be more on the U.S. as very bullish on the U.S.
Maxi, yes.
I'm not even. All right, let's be clear here. I think there's a reason. Again, what I was saying before. There's a reason why we have this conversation. Period. Everyone here can read between the lines. It's actually an interesting thing because I was at a conference. I spent a bunch of time out in Asia. I did a lot of work out in Korea. I was in Singapore, Thailand, a bunch of different conferences out in Asia. What's actually really interesting is I knew none of those projects that had booths at some of these conferences. And I'm pretty deep in this space, which is kind of interesting to me, meaning that the Asia projects aren't necessarily making it out to the US, but are the US, and this is a genuine question for me, are the US projects making it out to Asia?
Sure. I feel like let's see, from all the conferences that I've been to, I echo the sentiment that a lot of infrastructure players from the US have been making their presence in all the developed conferences in Asia, but I feel like we lack content. Meaning that I feel like from a gaming perspective, right, all I see is like the gaming chains that are actively setting up events, going to booths. But for the content that we've been developing, or even just like IPs alone, I don't see the presence in Asia.
I think to echo in that front, so I work a lot with startup founders, especially in the US. And a lot of times when they think about go-to-market in the past couple of years, just given like in the US, it's been kind of gated and they don't want to launch their tokens in the US. They most oftentimes want to target Asia. The issue that I face a lot of times is not to say these founders are uncultured, but they think Asia is like full, like, that. I couldn't think of a better word. And it frustrates me because each country has its own user behavior, its own regulation, and how people will go about using applications. And so I think from the US perspective, there needs to be more education in how to like enter those markets. Like, for example, in Korea, they're really like, a lot of people are like, oh, like Korea's great. I'm like, why do you think that? Oh, yeah. And the reason being is because there's a lot of retail liquidity. People are more interested, or maybe there's more like gambling behavior in Korea. And because gambling is not is illegal in Korea, they see crypto as a way for those behaviors. Trying to keep that unfortunately. And then, for example, in Japan, right, like I also cover gaming. It's like a lot of founders want to enter that, especially gaming founders. But the thing is like, Japan as a country is very risk averse and they're conservative. And if you were to enter that market, less than, I think, 10% of the population speaks English. And so you really need to think about what is your localization strategy? What is your content? How do you work with these big companies such as Sega, Bandai Namco, who you're trying to target for investments, and being present in that country? When I was working with our company on our Japan strategy, one mistake that I've made, to be quite honest, is that we didn't hire someone in Japan. Like I was able to like analyze the regulation, have meetings with a lot of these companies, but at the end of the day, because we didn't have someone there, it was very, very hard to bridge that connection. And so for US founders that are really interested in APAC, it's important to think about your localization strategy and who you're going to be working with. And also, like, how are you going to be present in that country? Not just for, hey, like, I'm here so that the users can buy my token. It's more about how do you utilize the applications or the technology that you're developing.
Yeah, and this one on that, I would corroborate on the sort of hackathons front, development activity we see. I do think you see a lot of, and to your point, gaming certainly, play to earn, remittances, a lot of high utility use cases being born out of Asia Pac. These are the ones that are highly speculative that we like to see here. And that feeds a lot of sort of developer adoption and activity.
All right, let's stay on this topic. I like that we've transitioned from kind of like a high level macro to more of the developer sentiments. Curious to hear from any of your experiences if there's any culture shock. I mean, something you've learned different about how US devs versus APAC devs behave, or you can even break it down a little bit more specific on like country level?
Maybe it's I don't know what it's.
I think one observation, not that the U.S. is, we're very individualized, right? I mean, that's the ethos of what we're here to do and innovate and compete. And I think competition can staunch out the difference. What is an otherwise like pretty inherent collaborative environment in hacks and sort of building collaboratively, especially in Web3 and open source. So I think one delta is team building and team formation and kind of openness and responsiveness. And I think builders in Asia-Pac might be more accustomed to, maybe in virtue of the dogs of capital comparative to the United States, be used to like bootstrapping, and working on a number of projects all the time. And just kind of a different animal in that respect. Not necessarily that we're less great at working on teams, it's just that there's just inherent teamwork. I think nimbleness.
Yes, that's definitely something that I also want to touch on in Asia. We're having to work with roughly about 40 gaming studios at this point, both at B3, also my previous career at Little Bull. I feel like a lot of the Asian devs strike me as extremely nimble teams in a sense that they would use a lot of the products that the platform is able to provide, but on top of it, they would add their own spin to it. And oftentimes the turnaround times like less than 2 weeks. Sometimes if you request a US student to make a feature change, it's gonna take like, a month or so? But in Asia, I don't know if they outsource it or do it in-house, but it's like instant.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we actually see it on the VidBox platform too. When we did our winter hackathons, people shipped quickly. We had a huge contingent out of Asia, primarily out of India. People want to build something. And what I've noticed for APAC specifically is that they are quite entrepreneurial and pragmatic. They prototype quickly, they quick to prototype, and they are constantly iterating. There is a culture of rapid iteration, shipping something fast, most importantly, willing to break things if it stopped working. And that's kind of the key thing when I look at APAC developers. Within the United States, I feel like they're a little bit less pragmatic. I think they're a little bit more big picture vision, high-level protocol design. Whereas I think within APAC, they're more execution-oriented. I think that's a huge difference of how you approach who you're targeting, and what kind of product you want made, how to incentivize them, and then what kind of expectations that you should have going forward if something is developing. Not to say that one is better than the other. I just think that they complement each other and they have very different types of feelers and approaches into some.
This fun, but when they that
I mean, I can speak a little bit just to lightly.
That the fun I want to go. I was like, you stick to me. We
I can just speak a little bit to the way that we approach teaching Asia versus the US. But I think that, a lot of the things that you guys have said have really been echoed in the students that we're working with. And obviously they're new to Web3, so it's a little bit different. But I would just say, there is a huge amount of initiative that comes from the devs that are in our program from Asia. It's week 2 of the course, so I'm literally teaching this is what a wallet is, this is how you download a wallet, and this is wallet safety. And we have some of our devs who are Web 2 devs in Asia, but they're looking to transition to Web 3, and they're in the chat. They're talking about bridging and liquidity pools and all of these things, and all of the US, and not all of the US students, but a lot of them are what's going on in the chat, what's happening? And so there just is a tremendous amount of initiative coming from those developers, and I wonder if that sort of plays into the behavior that you guys have seen working with devs in Asia. I would say that one of the things I've noticed that's maybe a little bit different than what you guys have said is we're working on kind of changing and I don't know what's going on. We're working on trying to adapt our curriculum just so that we can teach more effectively in the different countries that we're in. And we've been working a little bit with Sakazuki, which is kind of tied to Centauri in Japan, which is the giant or everything brand. And they're really interested in onboarding these students from Japan through SheetFi. And we've spoken to some of their team. That's not really just a matter of translating our course into Japanese. It's like you said, there is a huge language barrier. It's also kind of...
was the artist and this.
Hello.
There we go. base.
I can kind of lean over still. Yeah, basically we have to kind of tailor our entire curriculum if we do want to teach in Japan and be effective because of some of the cultural differences there. And like Irina was saying, US is just very individualistic, and so what the students, from what we've been told from Sakazuki in Japan, aren't as so, and they want more tailored curriculum around structured, and they want to be able to use these building blocks and get to a certain point. They kind of really spiral and go off into these other projects or cases. And so,
One little,
make it sound weird, but
I guess we're going to like,
I'll hold this real.
so just very, very quickly, I think it's a great point that you made in the last seconds. US people, US consumers are individualistic. I think we do our independent research. We might look to a large institution. We might follow our favorite VC, but APAC consumers are way more social. Projects can ramp up overnight if the right Telegram, if the right KOL, if the right community leader vouches for it. And that is a huge difference of how you address it. And as Maria was mentioning, if you want to break into these markets, you need to get access to that social network as well. And you need to have localized regional expertise that boots on the ground. Otherwise, you're not going to build up the trust and adoption that you need to build up that.
Awesome. I think that's all the time that we have. If you have any questions, we'll be hanging around over there. So feel free to shout us up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
One.